Hello, and welcome to another episode of Solipsist Watched. I'm your host, the Social Solipsist, and this week I watched The Secret Life of Walter Mitty from 1947. Now, maybe you, like me, are surprised to hear the year 1947 here, because this is a movie that was recently remade. I say recently, but it was 2013. It was 10 years ago, and I can't believe that much time has passed. I still have not watched that movie. I'm not sure I will, actually. We'll get there. I had no idea this was an old movie and that the recent one with Ben Stiller was a remake. But it came up in conversation, or the name of the movie came up in conversation, and one of my other friends said, "Oh, that's an older movie with Danny Kaye," and I was like, I had no idea. So I looked it up, and it looked interesting enough, and I was like, all right, let's give this a try. This is a fascinating movie. I don't know Danny Kaye as an actor very well at all. I swear I've seen him in something, maybe, but he's not somebody I'm super familiar with. And after this performance, I'm really interested to see more of him. This is the kind of thing you say about a contemporary actor, right? Somebody who's like new on the scene, but this was, like 65 years ago. No, 85. I can't do math. 85 years ago, 75 years ago. Oof. Anyway, really fascinating character who is in an unusual situation. I think, especially for it's an interesting movie in the time that it came out as well. I think, because this lives in a kind of limbo space between sort of, it has some musical aspects to it. It's definitely like a comedy drama of the like that were being made in the 30s and 40s, and into the 50s, and the relationships and the kind of character that Walter Mitty is fascinating, both on its own and in the context of the time. And I'm really curious how that translates to a more modern setting, as the remake would have been. Walter Mitty is this sort of milquetoast, very sort of character who kowtows, bows to everyone, and just lets everybody sort of run over him. And it's sort of played up pretty severely. This could easily go in a kind of in a direction that would age badly, especially in the context of the 40s, when sort of in the post-war era, and the sort of beginning of a new women's revolution, that portraying women as being as the rising role of women then ending up being air quotes problematic for men, because suddenly they think they have power and they take too much authority and they make a whole hash of it. That's very much a plot line that easily could have existed in this film and exists in plenty of other films, of just these women, and thankfully it manages to mostly avoid that. It definitely portrays a bunch of people in his life, men and women, as being kind of severely problematic. His mother is very overbearing, and he's basically her gopher. His fiance is, doesn't care for him and is kind of dumb, and she's got another suitor who's just around, and Walter doesn't stand up for himself. Nobody else stands up for him. Everybody just sort of tramples over him, and it portrays him as a very sort of slightly depressing character, somebody who seems like he has genuine things to offer, but has little personality of his own and little ability to stand up for himself, because it's, for whatever reason he didn't learn that set of skills or some such thing. And so the content of the film is mostly it's sort of this semi dream state where we're introduced to him. We show what his life is like. He's not very happy with it, but doesn't know how to deal with it. And he has this sort of these escapist fantasies where he imagines himself, he takes these real life scenarios or real life like sort of prompts and ends up daydreaming to a point of like being completely distracted and causing more shenanigans in real life because he is so distracted by his daydreams, which are, it's understandable. I mean, he needs a level. He's in a situation where that escapism probably saves him from some level of insanity. But it starts to blur together as the plot line goes along, as real world things start to happen, and he's not sure how real they are because he's aware of his daydreaming nature. People give him a hard time about it, and he thinks that he's like losing it more, and there's these like little clues that he's slowly picking up on of like, maybe I am crazy, maybe I am losing it, or maybe this is all real, or maybe like and even for the viewer, some aspects of it are kind of unclear throughout the movie. Was this real? Like, how real was it? Did he imagine part of this scene? And I think the production is really important for that because production-wise, you could absolutely produce that in a way where everything is very clear, whether or not it is, whether or not it's real, or it could go the opposite way, and everything could be ambiguous, but in a way that isn't satisfying. I think that would be an easy mistake to make of not making it ambiguous, but without the subtlety necessary to like make it believable as a scenario of genuine question. And Danny Kaye really does an excellent job of portraying his genuine confusion and interest and a wide variety of emotions. He also really gets to show off a variety of different acting skills because of some of these fantasies that he has, where he goes from playing the real world Walter Mitty to versions of himself in these different scenarios. And there are some really entertaining, wonderful scenes, especially in the earlier half of the film, where he is just doing these sort of wonderful routines that are incredibly entertaining on their own. And that does get a little bit into one of the problems I have with the film. It's not necessarily a big issue. It's more that this film is pretty long, especially for 47. It's very nearly 2 hours. And it is a substantial part of the film is a series of vignettes, basically, that are disconnected from the reality he's in. And while that is sort of necessary to tell the story of his daydreams, like his daydreams do sometimes go on for 10 minutes, and while they're really entertaining on their own, they're sometimes a bit disjointed from the reality, and they don't really have any substantial ramifications other than to once again remind us that he's got an active imagination. So over the arc of the story, we get to see him have some amount of growth and some amount of sort of the arc of the scenario that he's thrown into in his real life sort of gives him some opportunities where he is both put in stressful situations and unusual situations where he would not normally deliberately put himself, that lead him to be sort of even more trodden upon than normal, but then also give him some prompting to sort of have that struggle, engage in the struggle that he's having in his life in order to assert some authority and say like, no, I have something I want to stand up for here. This is important to me. I'm worried about this scenario. I'm worried about these people, and I need to do something. And so that's really the arc of the story, is his growth as a person. The end of the film, I think, is a little bit unearned. I hesitate to say that because that seems a little strong, but where the conclusion is very much, suddenly his talents are recognized, he's respected, and weirdly he seems weirdly more normal, which is almost a disappointment. It would be much like, well, at least for me, it would be nicer to see, rather than, oh, he got some success and then started conforming a little bit more to expectations, to instead see scenarios of like, oh, he, because of the exact talents that were sort of getting him in trouble before, his daydreaming, his imagination, his artistic interests and things like that, because he works in publish. He works in publishing. That those are finally the things that really get him recognition. Instead, it ends up being a little bit more traditional in terms of his success, of just his upward rise in a very general way. It's a little bit underwhelming. But overall, like, I think it's a really pretty strongly written script, and in addition to Danny Kaye, there's a whole bunch of other notable actors who are, or at least people who showed up with some frequency in movies in the 30s and 40s and 50s, including, of particular note, Boris Karloff, who has an incredibly recognizable face, one of possibly the most recognizable faces in cinematic history, at least in the 20th century, in no small part due to being portraying Frankenstein. He's the picture of Frankenstein. When you've seen somebody draw Frankenstein with the long head and the, kind of high hairline and the big eyes and the, heavy brow, that's Boris Karloff. That's just him. And so that, like, it's unfortunate that he gets reduced to that. He's one of the reasons he's as famous as he is. But he also portrayed a variety of characters over, I think, a pretty substantial career. And Karloff is a great actor in his own right. All the supporting characters, I think, are really strong too. Some of them I don't recognize. I don't know Virginia Mayo. She plays sort of the a counterpart to Danny Kaye. She's sort of the love interest slash she instigates some parts of the movie as they go on. And I also appreciated that she's not portrayed as like for want of a better phrase, damselly or helpless. She's not just looking for somebody to fix her problems. She's capable in her own right, and that's not even like even when there's a lot of female characters who, when it gets down to brass tacks, when you finally get the scene, a climactic scene of like violence or strength or whatever else, like suddenly the female character falls away and the male character has to step up and protect her finally. And even if that's like the only time it happens in the film, that's really common. And even here, she sort of stays like capable more or less throughout, which I really appreciate. I think all the performances in general are really great, and a lot of them are not very subtle. I mean, it is a comedy film from, the first half of the 20th century, so that's sort of just how things go. Everything's like played up a bit, but I think it works really well and comes down with a solid tone that is both like engaging and intriguing, and you're genuinely sort of curious about the mysteries going on, but also really entertaining and funny at times in mostly kind of subtle ways. And yeah, I'm just sort of really happy with it through and through. Aside from those, minor concerns with it, like, it's pretty great. Just as a side note, in reading about this, it's fascinating to find out that they've been trying to remake this since the 90s. And it's fallen through a bunch of times, and then it finally got remade. Yeah, I had no idea the 2013 one was a remake. And honestly, this one is so good, I almost don't want to watch the new one. because I imagine it has to be adapted dramatically differently. And I think it probably leans. I heard a lot of people say positive things about it, but I suspect that it leans substantially on, spectacle more than on character, which would be a little disappointing for this film. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about it. It's just pretty solid all around. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Solipsist Watched. I've been your host, the Social Solipsist, and I'll see you guys next time.